he should be impeached and a bunch of other wild stuff. And then randomly went, oh, I'm sorry. That was kind of, I was a little spunky that day. And then we kind of just moved on. All right. Bye, Elon. Let's keep moving. Because then Iran comes up and we just can't there's not space in our brain. Well, I'm glad that what I have for you here is what it is, because that can't be the end of the story. Elon, you got to, just out of principle, if you're going to make such allegations, you got to stand by them or at least continue your criticism of Trump. And I wanted this clash to last longer, and it's back. And Elon has more to say, and that's exciting. Before showing you what it is, some context. From media, President Donald Trump declared great victory as his big, beautiful budget bill cleared a key procedural hurdle in the Senate, but that didn't stop him from lacing into 2 Senate Republican holdouts. So the Senate voted to begin debate on the massive spending package, which is Trump's whole legislative agenda, and it is it's a political crime. It's a scam, taking from the poor to give to the rich while telling people it's going to help them. It's insane. Y'all know I don't just throw around hyperbole, except for when I want to, but this is not one of those circumstances. I'm serious. This will go down as, number one of the greatest, most abhorrent redistributions of wealth from the bottom to the top, and just an utter and complete political scam based on what Trump ran on and now what he's doing to the people who voted for him. I mean, we warned them, but still, I don't like it, and it's going to impact so many different people. But now we're one step closer to it actually passing the Senate. We'll see if that happens. I predict that it will, just given Trump's hold over the Republican Party. And then it'll go back to the House. They'll have to pass the newly revised version, and then Trump would sign into law. Again, this is terrible. And I have an update on the bill itself we'll get to after the Elon piece. But even as terrible as it is, and some Republicans going, ugh, either because of the debt being added to so much, or because they actually care about people and the guts to Medicaid and SNAP. But I still somehow believe Trump's going to find a way to get it through because of, like I said, his hold over the Republican Party. So Elon is mostly upset, I would say, over the fact that this is not, quote unquote, fiscally responsible. While they are saying we have to make these deep cuts to programs that benefit low-income Americans because of our debt problem, they're also making the debt problem worse with it, so it's completely incoherent, and that's his big problem. But at one point, he does point to what we're learning with new analyses as to the impact on jobs and our economy of this, which is not good either. I don't know how... If it weren't so bad, it'd almost be impressive how perfectly terrible this is. How can you create something so utterly and flawlessly terrible? I don't know. Elon Musk said, utter madness to someone talking about the bill. We're not shooting ourselves in the foot, we're shooting ourselves in the chest. Then he said, good question to someone asking about the energy provisions in the bill. Who supports this? At the same time, this bill raised the debt ceiling by $5 trillion, the biggest increase in history, putting America in the fast lane to debt slavery. Then he said the latest Senate draft bill will destroy millions of jobs in America and cause immense strategic harm to our country. Utterly insane and destructive. It gives handouts to industries of the past while severely damaging industries of the future. Yeah. It's like whenever I agree with Marjorie, it just feels icky. I feel icky. I feel dirty. I feel like I have an STD. Yep. We'll get down the soundboard. But I agree with Elon. Ooh, I got crabs now. Elon then said polls show that this bill is political suicide for the Republican Party, and links to that, which is that the polling reveals Americans do not support this bill because why would they? And an update from the American Healthcare Association saying more than half of nursing homes would be forced to cut staff and more than 1/4 would have to close their doors, according to polling these institutions. Then, if you thought this couldn't get worse, Rolling Stone describes it as fugly. Is that effing ugly or fat and ugly? I think effing. Well, it could be both because it's a big bill, but it's an ugly bill. Whatever. I think effing ugly, right? Right? Is that what it is? I don't know, but both. Republicans keep making Trump's a big bill worse. And this is the update on that. While Republican senators are securing babbles and trinkets for their political donors, the nonpartisan Congressional Budget Office, Ron Wyden says, has confirmed that the Senate bill will cut now $930 billion from Medicaid. I'm just going to keep, it might get repetitive, I'm just going to keep saying it. This is a scam. This is a political crime to take away near or around half of all American children are on Medicaid, rely on Medicaid. And disabled folks and low-income folks of different kinds they are being required to lose necessary food and health care so that they can fund tax cuts for the rich. When I say it, I go, wait, let me just check something. What? ChatGPT, can this be true? It doesn't feel like that would be a thing that would leave my mouth and wouldn't be a hyperbole, but it's not, somehow. Now, on Elon's criticisms, Republican Senator Markwayne Mullin went on TV to defend this, and as usual with Markwayne here, he struggled.
Senator, I hear what you're saying.
Oh, by the way, if you appreciate the show, please do click the subscribe button. It's free, and our live show is happening. We are very near full capacity, but we have a few seats left. Get your tickets, lukebshow.com/live. Markwayne, you going to be there? You going to be there, Markwayne?
Senator, I hear what you're saying. The CBO actually says that middle-income households would only see an overall increase between $500 to $1,000, not that full $10,000 you cited. Let me delve into some of the broader opposition, though, that we're seeing. In the most recent polling in the bill, 59% of voters say they oppose it. And Elon Musk posted yesterday that the bill is, quote, political suicide for the Republican Party. Do you think this legislation could cost Republicans in the midterms, Senator?
This is American politics. The Republicans are pushing through a bill that could very likely cause people to die, but will definitely ruin people's lives. And the question is, do you think this will this hurt you in the polls? That's just so American politics. We're ripping away health care from poor folks and food. Will this hurt your polling numbers? It's like, wait, what about the bad morality of it? So you have, again, to remind you, the middle income earners might have modest gains. Low income earners will lose wealth. High income earners will gain wealth. That's the breakdown of this, put simply, combined effect. He's going to try to say, no, but they were just analyzing. He's lying.
No, well, let's unpack some of the stuff you said. What the CBO was talking about was actual bring home pay. When you start talking about the child deduction or the child deduction that we actually double.
What about the child deduction? What about that?
When you start talking about the taxes that they are going to see the increase, plus you start looking at the increase in wage bring home, that's where we get the 10,000. CBO, what you're talking about specifically is just the extension of the tax cuts. So there's a lot of other factors at play in there. As far as Elon Musk goes, listen, I respect Elon. I think he's right for his opinion, but he just doesn't know. And so I have to disregard that. What we're doing is delivering for the American people, and they know that. So if you look at any polling in the red states, especially where President Trump won, which he won the red states overwhelmingly, President Trump is popular, and the bill is extremely popular. Other polls can be, as you know, decided by what demographic you want to poll. And I imagine if they were to go poll blue states, well,
Christian, listen. Okay, listen. What they didn't consider is numerous things. Let me list them. Child deduction. They didn't mention the child deduction and the changes to the child deduction, even though you are looking at the combined effect of it. So they were looking at that, but that's the only thing I can think of. So that, and people saying it's unpopular. Well, you have to look at who they're polling, because let's say they're polling just gay and bisexual illegals who voted for Zohran Mamdani, then what are they going to say about the bill? That's one thing. But if you look at real Americans and how what their thoughts are, then they also don't support it. You know how these polls do. It's insane. Fox News' poll shows this to be unpopular. You think they're just polling the bisexual and undocumented immigrants? I don't think so. All right, speaking of gay, Lindsey Graham defended this bill, and I said, I'm just sorry, dang it, it's not funny if I laugh at it. He's defending this bill, and he's going, how dare they try to raise the top marginal tax rate from 37% to 39.6%. How dare Democrats think that to save us from ripping apart people's lives, we shouldn't raise 2%, the top marginal tax rate for people making more than like $600,000 per year annually, after all their deductions and all their funny stuff, cute stuff. And he's very passionate about this.
The tax rates since 2017, the top rate has been 37. If these tax cuts expire, your taxes, if you're a family of four, will go up by $1,700. And we'll go back to
if you make more than $700,000 a year.
The 39.6 rate. Here's a question for the country. How much should the federal government take of anybody's income? What's a fair share? 37% seems pretty damn fair to me. Over a third of what you make, and that doesn't count state and local taxes. The number they would pick is probably a 90. So is 37% fair? I think yes. Most Americans think 25% is fair. You know, Jesus wants 10%.
I remember that. In, what's it called? Sunday school. I remember thou shalt not kill. Thou shalt not lie. Thou shalt not tax more than 10%. By the way, before playing more of this, just don't, they do this fear mongering. Well, what's fair? And are we going to disincentivize people from pursuing innovation and wealth if we raise it 2%? But number one, remember that before it was lowered in Trump's tax bill in 2017, under Obama, the slightly higher tax rate was in place as a massive recovery economically happened after the Great Recession that happened under a Republican president. And a strong economy was handed to Trump that then he sort of took credit for. And that all happened with a slightly higher. So clearly the economy can do just wonderfully, and rich people were getting unprecedentedly rich even more, still with that slightly higher tax. So it's not going to crush a slightly higher top marginal tax rate. So just the dollars above that figure is what we're talking about here. Slightly higher. And that could save us from having to gut programs that low-income folks rely on. And then don't get distracted by this ephemeral, theoretical, what do you think is fair? Most Americans say 25%. Many Americans say 0%. Okay, what does that even... All of us in a... What would you ideally like your tax rate to be? I pick. Yeah, pick. 0. But then you ask, what do you want in this country? And people want well-funded schools. They want safe communities. They want some basic social safety net that allows people to have life-saving health care. They think people should not starve. Not just as they should because they care for people, which is important. But also, if you selfishly look at this, you want to live in a community that is safe, where people have the ability to prosper, where your counterparts have opportunities themselves. We all can push forward the innovation and the prosperity of our communities, our society, if people have such opportunities. You don't want the risks, the outcomes that come with leaving people completely behind, the lives that they're sent into because of that, the spike in crime. And so when you start listing what it is that you want your government to do, then that's when they're working from this backwards. You don't pick the tax rate and then fund things. You pick what do you want to see in your society, and then you tax as fairly as possible to implement those objectives. And so I think it's perfectly fair to see a modest increase for the highest earners to properly, well, actually not even to enhance anything, to just protect Medicaid and SNAP. That is fair to me, Lindsay.
There is no number they won't embrace. So somewhere between 90 and 10, 37 is fair. This is not rewarding the wealthy. It's creating a number that makes sense. 37% going to the federal government is a fair share. It's over a third of what you make. And that doesn't count state and local taxes.
Again, a reminder that the top marginal tax rate too should be emphasized. Just if you make $600,000 per year, the dollars above that is what that tax rate is being applied to. But yeah, that isn't the question at hand. What theoretically is the perfect number that you would pick? It's all about the needs and the economic effect. And we know for certain we have needs, shown by the fact that you're trying to rip away serving those needs. And we have an economic argument that this will be perfectly great for our economy, shown by its performance under Obama. Then you have Jesse Jenkins saying the National Association of Building Trades Unions said, if enacted, the Republicans' budget bill stands to be the biggest job-killing bill in the history of this country. The equivalent of terminating more than 1,000 Keystone XL projects. Threatens 1.75 million construction jobs. If you have talked to anyone, the Keystone XL pipeline, oh baby, you'll hear that constantly. And that's part of why I've made the argument on that issue that I have. It's an environmental one, and then people say, well, what about the jobs? But those same people then don't care at all about a bill like this that is, by the National Association of Building Trades Unions assessment, is like killing 1,000 of those projects. And then finally, I'll show you Josh Hawley, a Republican senator who himself can't bear to support this.
I mean, we can't be cutting health care for working people and for poor people in order to constantly give special tax treatment to corporations and other entities. And we've delayed that in this bill. But it will, unless we take further changes or take further steps, it will happen in future years. And I'm opposed to this. If we're going to be a working class party, we've got to protect working people.
That's a Republican MAGA guy who gave the fist on January 6th, who was objecting to the election results. And he's saying what I'm telling you, which is that this is the scam that it seems to be. That's where I'll leave it. Share your thoughts in the comments.